Hello, what is up, and welcome to the Implicit Show. I'm your host today. We got a pretty cool episode. We got a special guest. All exciting stuff. I'm excited, so stick around.
Tapping into the true potential of the human spirit. This is humanity empowered. This is the Implicit Show.
Hello. What is up, and welcome to episode 49 of the Implicit Show. I think, 49, pretty exciting. We've done so much here so far, and I'm super happy to have you guys here. Super pumped. We already got Rachel Johnson in the comments, so we got to say thank you to Rachel Johnson for always being here first. She's always the first one. Super proud of Rachel. Anyways, we got a guest on the show today. You guys probably know him. He's been on a couple of the masterminds we've done, and he's also been here as a guest back when we were doing the Leading Life podcast, and just a great speaker. He's got a great attitude and just vibe about him. So I'm always super happy to talk with Justin. So today, Justin, man, I'm gonna give you a chance to just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, or tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, man. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. I love that you do this every single week, and you got the music Mondays and the workout Wednesdays and the terrific Tuesdays. I made that up. It's not called terrific Tuesdays, but just thank you. Just thank you so much for having me on, man. And just to kind of introduce myself in short, and then we can maybe later get back into a story of some sort. But I currently co-host a podcast called The Growth Now Movement that has grown exponentially over the last year. We just hit yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of the podcast. We've had amazing guests like Steve Weatherford and Kyle Maynard and Brian Scudamore and Rock Thomas, and just amazing guests. And it's created a great opportunity for me to connect with these individuals and continue to grow my life, and kind of really taking that brand currently and writing. We were talking before, I'm writing a book, which hopefully will be wrapped up in the next couple of weeks. Just super excited about that. And really, I mean, my main focus in life is just to understand that, if you're not growing, you might as well be dead. To be stagnant and stale, it's not worth living at that point. So, I have a true passion for growth in all aspects of your life, and whether that be spiritually or in relationships or whatever. And that's something that I'm able to kind of touch on, and something that we teach through our podcast, and what I teach when I speak, and what we're going to be teaching through the book. So I'm really, really big on understanding that it doesn't matter where you come from. It just matters where you're going.
Yeah, man, that's huge. We had a little chat before the show, and it was good to hear kind of where you're at. I see you always taking action. Like you said, your podcast has grown exponentially since you first started last year, and you got that book that you're working on, which I'm super excited to get going. So that's awesome, man. Tell us a little bit about your story. I mean, you've been on the show before, so we don't necessarily need to hear the whole thing, but let's hear kind of the key elements of what makes Justin Justin.
Sure. And again, like you said, I've been on the show before, so I'm not going to dive super deep. You can go back and listen to it. I don't know what episode it was for you guys, but they're more than welcome to go back and listen to it. But I think the funny thing is, the whole don't judge a book by its cover. I think when people look at me, they assume that I come from a nice upbringing. I grew up in a beach town, and people just assume that everything was perfect for me. But it was really the exact opposite. I had a mom who struggled with pill addiction for over 20 years. I had a dad who spent some time in jail. We went from living in a $500,000 home to almost overnight. My mom moved into a 2-bedroom apartment. My dad moved into a trailer. So you can imagine me, my 2 older sisters, living with my parents in this type of environment, and just really relearning life and relearning how to live life in a different way. And as the struggles continued, I said earlier before we started this, I was the oldest 14-year-old of all time, because I was really forced to grow up fast. When you have a mom with a pill addiction, sometimes you end up becoming the parent. To the point where when I was 19, I had to move in with her, and I was helping her pay bills, and because she wasn't able to hold down a job for a long time. And don't get me wrong, my mom loved me unconditionally, and she did the best that she could for me, and she was able to help me through a lot of my life, and she was my rock. But with that being said, she just couldn't seem to get her addiction and her depression under control. And a little over a year ago, she lost her life and lost the battle to pill addiction. And that has really kind of set me on a course of true purpose and passion to help people realize that you don't have to choose the life that your parents lived, and you don't have to you don't have to, if you're growing up in an inner city somewhere, you don't have to live that life. You make choices for yourself, even at a young age, to take the right step day by day, and truly grow and become a better person than your predecessors were. And, because of those hardships, it's really put me in a place that I'm able to spread that message.
Yeah, man, that's really powerful. It's crazy how much those experiences can affect us. And I remember last time you were on the show, you were telling us about how, life was before your mother passed and then after your mother passed, and how much kind of like, tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what kind of drive, or how did life change afterwards?
Yeah, man. I think the biggest shift for me has been a personal shift in how I am as a human being. I mean, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit and an entrepreneurial drive, and always had a desire to do my own thing. And, I've always been successful working for other companies and stuff like that as well. But what it shifted for me is it took it from being about being successful financially, and it shifted it to just being a good human being, and realizing that, yeah, sure, do I want to make a lot of money in my life? Absolutely. But the point of me making a lot of money is because then it puts me in a position to help more people. And it's really shifted the mindset that, like, we're not here forever. We can't make it about us. We need to be able to kind of step up and step into the purpose that we have in our lives, and help people, get to where they want to go. And everybody's purpose is different and everybody's drive is different, but you really have to kind of tap into that. And having that hardship of losing my mom really made me come to realize that, like, I believe that we're all here for something greater, and it's up to us to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So tell us, I'm curious, we titled this episode, it was "Don't Let Your Past Dictate Your Future," right? And I think this is a very important topic for a lot of people to hear. What kind of brought this up? Why did you want to speak about this today?
Because, it's funny, when going through all this stuff, people would always say to me, wow, I can't believe you turned out so well. I can't believe you turned out so good, and you're such a good person, and you don't fall into these traps that life can lead you down, and so on and so forth. And I kind of took a step back, and I was like, well, why do people do that? Why do people follow the path of their parents if their parents made bad choices, or why do they make those bad choices and kind of live in, whether it be addiction or whatever? I mean, there's so many different types of addiction, whether it be drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever. I mean, you kind of fall down these paths. And I was like, why do we allow ourselves to do that? I mean, I think for me, it almost became like second nature. I knew I didn't want to follow down their path, so I chose a different one. But why not make it obvious? And kind of what I'm trying to say is no matter where you come from in your life, right? So, like, I was raised in a household that wasn't the best, and my parents didn't make good choices. That doesn't mean I have to do that. Or say at some point, I know somebody, a great mentor of mine, who used to be a meth addict. She's no longer a meth addict. She's actually a coach and a spiritual leader in her field. And it's completely amazing to see that transformation. I didn't know her when she was a meth addict, but to hear her stories from before and what she's become now, it's transformational. And the point is this: wherever you're sitting in your life right this second, that's not who you are. You can make a decision today to make massive change in your life and move forward and grow in a positive way. Even if you're happy with your life right now, like, you can still get better. And I think that's the beauty of it. Like, again, going back to that line of, like, if it's not growing, it's dead. I really believe that. Even if you're happy with your life right now, if you're just stagnant, you're sitting on your couch, you don't really care about what's going on in the world, like, you're missing something. So let's find out what that is and move forward. But again, the title of the show, I kind of went on a rampage rant there, but the title of the show is, if we allow our past to dictate who we become, we're missing something. And for me, just from my personal story, it's about finding your purpose and finding your passion. And so, if they're listening, or whoever's listening right now, I want you to think in your life, like, where are you right now, and what are you unhappy with? What are you unhappy with currently in your life, and then how can you change that, right? So you need to take the first step to change that. And I really believe the first step, and what's going to be the first chapter in our book, is finding your purpose. And I believe that gives you direction with where you're going in life. So to give you an idea, I actually kind of came up with this idea that if you write an email to 10 people that and you ask them, what is my biggest strengths and what are my biggest weaknesses, this will help you find your purpose in life. So with all that being said, what'll happen is you'll write the email to say these 10 people, and within your biggest strengths, you're going to find a pattern. You're going to find a pattern in the things that you do well, whether it's like you're caring, you're a great listener, whatever that is, and you can find your purpose in that. So mine was, I was a great listener and I give great advice. But one of my weaknesses was my delivery sucked, because I did it in a very aggressive manner, because I was like, I'm right, you're wrong. So the weaknesses also kind of teach you how to kind of hone your skills and hone your passion and your purpose to make it a career path, or to make it make you find happiness in it. I'm not saying everybody in the world needs to go out and save the world and change lives. But you're going to find happiness in that, at least. And you're going to start to feel happier every single day. And you're going to truly start to make changes beyond that. If that makes sense at all.
That made a lot of sense to me, for sure. We got a question here in the comment section from Amanda. Well, before that, we got a question a comment from Bears. She says, "It's not who you think you are that holds you back, it's who you think you're not." So that's a great comment. Bears is a great friend of both of ours. So
yeah,
go
love
Bears. Thank you for that. But Amanda asked, she said, what if you aren't unhappy? Which I feel is the situation for a lot of people. Like you said, it's really powerful to sit down and take a listen and think of, all the things in your life that you're unhappy about, that you're not satisfied with. Cause that gives you an idea of like, how you could change, because I find so many people, they're just comfortable, right? They're not unhappy. They're not happy either. They're just kind of in this zone, and it's hard to find your purpose or to find your passion or to know what to do with your life when you don't even, like, you're just in this comfortably numb zone of like, yeah, like things aren't too bad, but they're not too good either. Do you have anything, any comments on that?
Well, I think, like you said, I mean, you're in your comfort zone, but there's a difference between happiness and comfort. Mm-hmm. So, I have a saying, I'm always happy, but never satisfied. So I kind of live in this zone of like, I'm a happy person. I enjoy life. I enjoy my friends, and I enjoy my family and all these amazing people I surround myself with. And I enjoy what I do. But I'm not satisfied. I want more. And maybe that's a personality trait. I mean, I don't know if you can add to that at all, but maybe that's a personality trait to say, I'm okay with where I am right now, and I don't need to be anything more. You know what I mean? But I think that if those people that are sitting on their couch are like, I'm happy, and they want to be that, I challenge them to step outside of their comfort zone for a weekend or a week and go do something good in your community or your neighborhood, whatever it is. Go volunteer, go do something, and see that the world needs you. Whatever you're bringing to the world, they need you, but you have to get out of your comfort zone to bring that to them. We all have something to give that's unique, and we just have to be able to find that. And I guarantee you that if you do that and you step out and you bring 100% you to whatever the world needs you to be, you're going to find a whole new level of happiness.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I really believe there's a difference between just being happy and like being fulfilled, right? Like, I think happiness is really a big part of happiness. And you hear this a lot in, Eastern philosophy. It's like, just let go, just be grateful, start to think about all the things that you could be happy about, and look at your life and realize, everything is okay just the way it is. But then, here in the Western society, we got this pursuit of happiness, right? It's like we're always trying to work. We're always trying to reach this next big goal or accomplish this next big thing or change somebody's life or change the world. And I think what's beautiful about that is it brings a whole other level of fulfillment, because all of a sudden life's not about just you. Life's about like everybody here on this planet together, doing, working together, growing together, living together. And I love what you said there, step out of your comfort zone for a sec, like go take a weekend off and maybe go help somebody else, do something you've never done before, volunteer, or I know some people who have even left the country and gone to like Haiti or gone to, some other country that's really got it bad and help those people. And it really helps you develop a new perspective of life. And it helps you kind of think of things differently, for sure. We got another comment from Bears. He says, I think being okay with where you are is a cop-out. We were meant for greatness, every one of us.
Yeah, I like that as well. It's funny. I actually found an old speech I used to give back when I was like 20 in this company that I worked for as a manager with them. And it was like a motivational speech. It was 10 steps to realizing your life dreams. And I'm thinking about bringing it back. It's actually a pretty good speech. But the one was the fact that the average human being has 50,000 thoughts a day. So even if you're sitting on your couch and you're happy, you have 50,000 thoughts a day, right? How many of those thoughts are positive? How many of those thoughts are going towards your own personal growth? How many of those thoughts are going towards, making yourself a better person? And even take that a step further, how many of those thoughts are going towards changing the world? I guarantee you 75% of those thoughts are just crap. They don't mean anything and it doesn't matter. But if we really focused on what our brain is thinking throughout the day, and we make it a purpose of ours to truly focus on our thoughts and realign them, your body's gonna immediately force you out of your comfort zone, because you're gonna realize that, like Bear said, it's a cop out. You're gonna realize that you're going to be forced to move, because all of a sudden you're not happy. You feel stagnant. You know you can give more. You know you can do more. I mean, you look at these guys like Bill Gates and Ty Lopez and all these people. They don't need to work, but why do you think they keep working? Because there's something greater than them that they feel like they have a drive for. It's not money. They don't need more money. So, you have to be able to kind of ask yourself the right questions throughout the day to kind of push yourself forward.
Yeah, that's such a crazy distinction, like such a crazy thing to think about, how many thoughts we actually have on a daily basis and how unconscious they are.
Mhm.
Like 50,000, you hear that number 50,000, you're like, what? I probably thought about like 10 things today tops, but there's
Yeah.
all these unconscious things. And I remember hearing a statistic like 90% of those thoughts are generally the same thoughts you had yesterday. And so oftentimes we get caught in this loop, this habit, this ritual, this rut, whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it, right? And
Mhm.
and that it dictates our future. It dictates where we're going to go in life and how we're going to feel right now in this present moment. So that's super powerful. And we got more questions here if you're open to them,
Sure.
Justin.
I
Amanda's
can't
asking,
promise good answers, but as long as they're good questions.
as long as they're good questions. Well, Amanda's got a question here. She asks, what do you mean realign your thoughts? What are the questions you mean? So do you have some examples of like maybe some questions that would help you, to stay focused or to realign your thoughts so that you're not just all over the pot, all over the place. You're not just thinking about garbage all the time, right?
Sure. I start every morning writing down in a journal 3 things I'm grateful for. And I think that this practice truly helps you realign your thoughts. It gets you in a better mindset. It gets you in a better focus. It creates positivity within your body that'll create positive thoughts throughout the day. And then I actually, I do some incantations and visualizations throughout the day as well. So what I do, and this, I think Amanda was the same person who said, well, what if you're happy? And I don't know if Amanda's happy, which if she is, amazing. But visualizing who you want to be in your life going forward, right? Like Bears actually talked about his visualization of being on a stage in front of a bunch of people with a little ear mic and becoming a great public speaker, right? So what the visualization did for Bears was it realigned his goals every single day. So refocusing where you want to be in life will refocus kind of your thoughts, if that makes sense. So always start with gratitude, because you'll have a day of positivity. And then obviously the visualization of where you want to be in the future. If you have a job and you like it, but you want a promotion, visualize yourself in the next step. Visualize, act as if you're in that role, and you'll start to see the rewards from there.
Yeah, I would add to that. I've learned something. I forget exactly where I heard it, but I've always struggled with visualization. Like I understand the importance. I know how powerful it is, but I've always struggled to just follow through and to make it like a powerful experience. And one of the things that I learned was, instead of just visualizing yourself reaching that end goal, but to also visualize yourself like striving towards it and struggling towards it and then succeeding. So I think so many people, they're like, visualize myself, making $1 million. What's that going to do for me? Like, I got to get out there. I got to do something, right? I got to make stuff happen. But they kind of forget, like, there's a journey along the way. You're going to struggle. You're going to have to work hard. And so sometimes even just visualizing the struggle, like I know for me personally, sometimes I don't have a boss. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have anybody, kicking my ass or telling me what to do. And so I really have to, what I've realized one of my weaknesses or one of the areas that I need to improve is I get tired and then I get lazy. And so I've been able to visualize myself getting tired and getting lazy and then breaking out of that. And so that's been a great, powerful practice for me when it comes to visualization. As we got another comment from Bears. Bears.
And it's funny because I've said this before in one of the calls. Like we talk so much about visualization, just visualize $1 million and it'll show up. It's so not true. But what everybody's saying and what all these influencers are spitting out is visualization. I visualize myself to live in this mansion with this car, or I visualize myself to have the perfect wife or husband, and it just happened. That's not true. You have to be able to take the action to do it. So I don't want people to think that we're preaching this like if you visualize it, it'll come. You need to put in the work. You need to take the steps needed. So what I actually do with my visualization is, yes, I visualize myself where I want to be, but then I set goals and I figure out how do I get there step by step. And I just take the next right step, which is a quote that my sister told me the one time. She's like, just take the next right step. And I loved it. And I was like, that's all we can do, right? We can't control anything beyond the next thing that we do. And that's the thing. Like when you talk about, I mean, to talk about the topic of what we're doing this show about, if you're stuck in a rut, if you're out of work, or you have an addiction problem, or you live in a family that's abusive and you want to get out of it, you can't change that overnight. You have to take the next right step, right? So what I did, I couldn't get out at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There wasn't an option. I had to live in it, right? But when I turned 18, I got a job, I got mentors, and I moved out. So I did the first right step. I got a job that wasn't working at a grocery store. And then the second step was find somebody in that company that I can look up to that's willing to take me under their wing. And I did that. And then that allowed me to learn that business well enough that I could move out at the age of 18. So it was one step at a time, right? But again, just taking that next right step will create better action for you going forward. But you have to want it. Like, you can't be that person who's like, yeah, I want it, but then you're not going to take the action. Then you don't really want it. You're just saying you want it. And that is a cop-out as well, to use that term again. But you have to be able to take the right steps going forward. And it's funny, we all listen to these podcasts and we listen to these other people's stories, and they're like, they're not giving me enough. I need more, because I don't know everybody's individual story. So I can't tell you exactly what to do, but I encourage people, if they want, they can reach out to me and ask me questions and tell me their story, and maybe I can help them. That's one of those things that, like, I want to help as many people as I possibly can. And my general story isn't going to change their life. Like, it's the facts, you know what I mean? But the main thing is, I think that we all know what's right and wrong, and we all know what we need to be doing. I mean, you talked about, feeling lazy and getting tired and doing all that stuff. That's not right, but there's certain days you fall into it, and that's okay. We can't beat ourselves up for the decisions that we made yesterday, but we have to be able to move forward, and it's just one step at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. So my question is, what would you say to somebody who feels kind of crippled by their past? Maybe they know their purpose, maybe they know what they're after. They've got goals set in place. They're kind of, they're on track according to, a lot of the, traditional theory of what you need to do to reach your goals. But they're crippled by the past. Every time they go to make a move, or every time they think about taking a chance, they get this flashback of the past of like, oh no, I tried that once and I failed. Or, I've never done that before, so how could I ever do it in the future, right? And it cripples them. It stops them from taking any action.
It's a really good question. I mean, I'm just trying to relate it to myself personally. My past certainly crippled me for a long time. I had to move high schools at the age of 16. And then I completely lied about everything that my life was for 2+ years, because because I didn't want people to know. I didn't want people to realize oh, well, Justin's life sucked before he changed high schools, and so on and so forth. And I actually remember the moment that I made a decision that I was no longer going to lie about who I was, and I was going to step out. And there was great power in it. There's also great sadness, but you have to understand that there's a fear in life. Like I told you before I did this, I hate Facebook Live. I'm fearful of it, but you have to feel the fear and do it anyway. And the moment I decided, I was dating this girl. I was 20, 19 or 20, something like that, probably 20 at the time. And I went to dinner with her and her family. And in this moment, her mom goes, "Oh, well, what about your dad? What does he do?" And at the time, my dad was in jail. And I literally just looked her in the face and I went, "I can only see my dad during visitation hours." And the girl that I was dating at the time literally grabbed my leg under the table. And I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that, right? But I felt this there's this freedom. And in that moment, I decided that my past was no longer going to hold me back. It's only going to propel me further. But you have to take that leap, right? You can't allow people's judgments or people's ideas, or the fact that you may have failed 2 or 3 times previously, to stop you from moving forward, right? You cannot do that at all. And I want to see that leap of faith is one of the scariest yet freeing things you could do in your life. And me doing that, it sucks because the girl ended up breaking up with me because of it, because her parents constantly said, well, just remember, Lindsay, you marry the family too. So I had to live with that, right? But I felt much better. And we can
Mm.
only make decisions for ourselves.
Yeah, no, I really like what you said there about, instead of allowing your past to cripple you, use your past to propel you forward. That's so powerful because sometimes we look at these negative experiences that happen in the past or things we consider negative, and we're just like kind of we allow it to stop us. But instead, like, what if that was the reason you're moving forward? What if that was the reason you're taking action? What if that bad thing that's happened in the past or your failure or whatever is your why to succeed? Because that's a whole other level of motivation. That's a whole other level of like just power and passion. I like that.
Yeah. Preston Smiles said, do you know who Preston Smiles is?
Yeah, Preston's
Yeah.
very inspiring.
Yeah. Author of Love Louder and wrote a book with his wife as well. He has said something like, based off of sheer statistics, there's something like 75,000 people in this world that need to hear your story from your mouth and your mouth only. So don't be afraid of who you are, where you came from, because there's people in this world. It might not be your best friend, it might not be your family member, it might not be anybody in your community, but there's 75,000 people on average that need to hear your story to change their life in a positive way. So think about think about the positives, right? So when we're afraid to do something, think about what's positive about it. I had someone email me. They heard me on another podcast tell my story. And they emailed me and said, thank you so much for sharing this. Because of you, I fully accept my mother for her flaws. And I've created a new life with my mother. Right. So these are the things, like, imagine hearing that from people. Is it always easy for me to go out and talk about this stuff? No, absolutely not. It's uncomfortable. It's not the easiest thing to do. But when you get rewards like that and you understand that you're positively impacting people, like, that's why you do it. So focus on what good can come of it instead of what bad, because we so often focus on the bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we're coming to the end of the episode, Justin. I was wondering if you had any last words or any last insights for people who, kind of feel like, and again, don't let your past dictate the future. I feel like that's a belief system that a lot of people adopt, because we look at our past and say, okay, that's evidence for who I am today or for what I'm capable of in the future. So seriously, great episode, like a great chat. I'm always appreciate you coming on and talking, but do you have any last words regarding this?
Um, I, we talked a lot about fear, actually, and so I mean, if I had to, like, sum it up, something I said earlier, feel the fear and do it anyway. There's people in this world that need to hear from you, and there's maybe it's just yourself. Take that leap of faith and find your happiness through your purpose, and just take that leap of faith, because the world needs you to do what you're here for.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's super powerful, Justin. Thank you so much. Again, I gotta say I appreciate you, man. Like every time we have a talk, I feel a little bit inspired. I'm like, man, this guy's like, I gotta go do some stuff. So before you go, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you're doing with your podcast. Tell people where they could connect with you and where they could learn more about what you're doing. So that they could listen to your podcast and they could get ready for your book to be released
Sure,
soon.
man. So the podcast is called The Growth Now Movement. If you look us up on iTunes, the podcast thing, you see my face and a bald guy. That's my co-host. The book hopefully will be out summertime-ish. We can't ever really peg that down, but that's going to be called The Growth Now Movement, Guide to Exponential Growth in All Areas of Your Life. Super excited about that. And then just going forward, it's going to be a huge year for the podcast. Amazing guests lined up in the coming months, all the way through October. We're going to have guys like Preston Smiles on. Lewis Howes is logged in for October. Just really, really excited for the future of the podcast, and just, I'm super appreciative of anybody who listens. And if you have any questions or need help with anything, reach out.
Love it, Justin. Love it. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. If you guys want to get a hold of Justin, make sure you go find him on social media and make sure you go over to iTunes and check out Growth Now Movement Podcast. If you guys want to support what we're doing here on Implicit, you go to patreon.com/implicit. I just came in with a book today too. The book is free. It's gonna be free for like 5 days. So if you guys want that, just send me a message. I'll give you the book. And make sure you guys send Justin a message if you guys have any questions. Make sure you connect with him, right? Don't let this podcast be the end. We've had some great, amazing guests on the show, and I always want you guys to make sure you connect with them so that the relationship isn't over. But until next time, I'm sure Justin will be back on the show someday soon. Right, Justin?
That's right, Bren.
That's
And
right.
we're interviewing you on Saturday, and I'm for our podcast, and I'm super excited about that as well.
Yes. And I'll be on the Growth Now Movement podcast. So get
Yes.
ready for that, guys.
Join the movement.
Join the movement. I love it. All right. Well, we'll see you guys soon. Let's see the peace sign, Justin.
Thanks, brother.
Peace.